Hello and welcome to Five Good Questions, episode 3. I am super excited for this episode. One of me and Yamsox's, who you're about to shortly meet, friend has introduced us, and this is an amazing connection that I'm so excited to share with you. So, without further ado, welcome to Five Good Questions, episode 3, featuring Yamsox. Yamsox, I'll just have you intro a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Neil. The older I get, I feel like the less I know how to answer this question. However, I will say that much like yourself, being someone whose heart is within so many beautiful things and people, I feel like being a part of this world, it is my destiny to be able to share such positive experiences and share experiences with other people. And times like this are, you know, exactly what I live for.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with five good questions I'm about to ask you. So, without further ado, question 1 is what are you?
This is a question phrased in such a way that reminds me of when the Buddha was asked this question. The Buddha, very famous person, was walking down a road once, and he had such a gait to his walk that it inspired a passerby to simply ask that exact question, "What are you?" You have to be someone special in order to not ask, "Who are you?" Just, "What are you?" This passerby didn't know who the Buddha was. And so he started inquiring, "Are you a man?" The Buddha said, "No." "Are you a woman?" The Buddha said, "No." "Are you a human?" The Buddha said, "No." "Are you an angel?" The man asked. And the Buddha said, "No." "What are you?" the man asked again. And the Buddha finally responded, "I am awake." And it's a beautiful answer. And it's something that I'd like to reciprocate, not to compare myself to any great spiritual master before me. However, what we are beyond this world, body, mind, and form is none other than that awareness itself, just the witness, sakshi bhav, the sentiment of observing. And as one rests in that superior identity, then all other forms of suffering naturally subside. This is true not just for the Buddha, not just for myself or you, but for everyone listening.
Thank you. And so, I've followed some of your content now for a couple of months, and our mutual friend Vinay, shout out Vinay, has sent me a lot of your content, and it's amazing to see the kind of things that you create on TikTok and social media and YouTube. And I know a little bit about your background, but for our listeners who are just tuning in and understanding who and what you are for the first time, what led you into your spiritual journey?
Of course, my life is not defined by any particular moment, but a gradual continuum of moments. But if I must provoke one moment unto the surface which shines brighter than any other moment, I would say that during my time at university, I was getting quite into mathematics and physics, for I was really interested in explaining the nature of this universe. I think naturally we all have some innate curiosity over what it is that we've just been spawned into. But a lot of people feel like that kind of question is best answered by, you know, academics or other people who know better. And I was naive enough to feel like I'm one of those people. I'm going to go answer this. So I started studying the unsolved problems in physics and was really curious about, what it is that we're lacking in our culture that seems to give rise to this lack of awareness of our fundamental role in this great cosmology. And of course, what I found was not any presence of an answer, but again, a deeper absence. For science didn't have the answers that I was looking for. I think physics has this scale called the sigma scale, which is the shorthand for a unit of standard deviation. It's some measurement of how likely that a scientific discovery is truth, and something is considered scientifically true when it's above 6 sigma or something. And that's great because that's 99.9999999% certain or whatever. But a kind of spiritual seeking for truth, we're after that 100%. Beyond the 0.0000001% of uncertainty, what can be known without any assumptions, beyond belief? And so, of course, my journey gradually shifted from scientific pursuits to a more inward depth. And from that absence, actually, a kind of nothingness spoke itself as an answer. When you find nothing to be there, instead of brushing it aside, put nothing at the center of your quest. What is nothingness? Science says the evidence of God is not. Before the universe was nothing. Well, this nothingness sounds a lot like God then. If God proclaims in the Bible, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, well, before everything is nothing, and after everything is nothing, nothing is therefore the Alpha and the Omega. Nothing is beyond form. If you try to speak about nothing, it's not nothing. The Tao Te Ching describes the Tao as if it can be told, then it is not the eternal Tao. Well, that too sounds a lot like nothing. And so from my dormitory, finding nothing to be an answer started to bridge all various aspects of life together, almost miraculously, humorously. The Venn diagram converged onto a zero-dimensional point, and that is the zero not zero, the very nothingness behind all religion, all spirituality. I later discovered this to be Nirguna Brahman, to use the Sanskrit vocabulary. So it's very funny that I went to university to find the answers of everything, and I ended up finding questions of nothing, precisely the opposite.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing journey, amazing little background. Thank you for that. And so, from also following some of your content, I have come to understand that you are someone who is very devotional in chanting and who has found the path of Bhakti Yoga. And so, I would like to ask that as question number three: why do you find chanting or Bhakti Yoga so powerful?
When I was feeling in the depth of my anxiety, very hopeless, for panic attacks sometimes arose, especially related to trying to understand the nature of existence. I mean, it's so overwhelming, all the things that one might have to take into consideration. There's what science says, theories of evolution, differing cultural opinions, and the vastness of space, so many supermassive black holes at the center of innumerable galaxies, and a chronology of space-time that is completely beyond comprehension. And you think of yourself in this body, on this rock, floating through the void. It becomes quite existentially terrifying if you meditate on that for too long. But the mistake I made in meditating on that is the expectation that it all has to be understood. And in the depth of my panic during those moments, your baseline for what it means to be happy starts to get lowered. And so I see now that anxiety is actually a beautiful blessing. Many of us just want to have a good day. If you have a good day, then that's what it means to be happy. But I myself had so many bad days that my threshold for happiness started to get lowered. I just want a good hour, you know? I don't care about having a good day. I just want to make it through 1 hour without getting scared. Okay, that's not possible. How about just this minute? If I can make it through this minute, then I'll be happy. Wow, even that might not be possible. Okay, how about this breath? You know, oh, I'm hyperventilating. That's not possible. Okay. Eventually, the threshold gets so lowered that what else is there to do but just remember the qualities of the source, the supreme, the truth? If I have the capacity to just be conscious of Sat Chit Anandam, then how can I be unhappy? So chanting is my medium to express myself in the very act of having my baseline lowered to the minimum. In this moment, if you can just remember something positive, it's a good moment. Bhakti
Wow,
Yoga is the sacred art and science of harnessing that. So it has served me well.
incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Going into the journey, going into each hour, each minute, each breath to see the gratitude that comes out of those things and how you can find presence and peace in all of those experiences. What is a story of beautiful magic or synchronicity in your life that you love to share?
Hmm. I would say the story of how I discovered Jagat Guru Tam Shri Kripaluji Maharaj, who is one of the many Indian saints. When I started discovering spirituality a few years ago, of course, I got into learning from Jagidesh Vasudeva, more commonly known as Satguru, and he has many discourses in which he talks about the importance of finding a living master. And so I got very cocky and went into my city with a satchel, and in that satchel I had written, uh, "May I find my guru? May I find my guru? May I find my guru?" With Sharpie on a piece of cardboard, put it in the satchel, walked around my city, looking for anyone who might be my guru. And of course, I'm no Paramahansa Yogananda. I can't just spawn in a guru. My good karma isn't that good. So I didn't find anyone like that. But just as I gave up searching, at my feet, almost miraculously, this orange shawl appeared. It was in a very unusual place, and I knew that even though it isn't a person that I was after, it's something that I was meant to find. So I put it in the same satchel and went home. Of course, it wasn't until many years later that I discovered that what was written on it was Sanskrit. And to any spiritual seeker, that's an interesting thing to know, given that whereas mathematics is the language of physics, French is the language of love, Sanskrit is the language of spirituality, for the very word guru is a Sanskrit word, yoga, mantra, All these are common vernacular. Chakra, another one. So I knew I had to learn Sanskrit then to be able to translate what was on this shawl. And that too took a good few years to be able to learn enough Sanskrit to be able to do the translation. And lo and behold, on that fateful day that I went out in search of a guru, I came back with a shawl whose first word written on it was none other than guru. The very second word I was able to translate was Kripalu, the name of Sri Kripaluji Maharaj, whom this shawl was dedicated to. And I had not heard of such a guru before, so I was quite elated that I had found my living master. Except there were two things different than my expectations. The first was that I didn't find my guru, he found me. And the second was that he was not a living master. He had left his body, Mahasamadhi, 10 years prior. It's very strange then. Nonetheless, I was ecstatic to find out that his foremost disciple, Swami Mukundananda ji, was actually someone I was already subscribed to on YouTube. And the very next video I watched of Swamiji's was him discussing his guru, Sri Kripaluji Maharaj. Now, all of that together was such a wonderful synchronicity. I knew that I had found my guru.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, question 5 is, what is something you would like to share from your heart that you have faith will serve all and whoever hear it?
There is known as Shiva and Shakti, famous duo in Hinduism of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Many pray to such beings, but few know their story, and not their physical story from their historicity, but instead the spiritual story of what Shiva and Shakti mean. Shiva means to go within, Shakti means to go without. So when one is withdrawn inwardly, know that to be the divine masculine. And when one is expressing themselves radiantly, know that to be the divine feminine. However, our senses are such that they are one-way gates of energy. Much like in electronics, there are such components called as diodes that let electricity pass in one direction, but in the other direction, it's much harder. So too, our senses are destined, designed, designated to flow outward. However, we are in the perception that we must consume things. We must take something from the world and gratify our senses by taking in good things to see, good things to hear, good things to smell, good things to taste, good things to feel. But we are always ultimately unsatisfied by this inward pull of energy. And that is because the world is finite, but the soul is infinite. The infinite soul cannot be satisfied by a finite inpour of energy. So when one turns their perception outwards again and instead engages in service, seva, through taking the infinite love that's within one's heart and pouring it outwards into the world. Well, this is a win-win. A finite world will always have more room for love. Therefore, there is never an end to your service. And because your soul is infinite, there is always energy to expend. It is when one transitions to this direction of energy that an eternal kind of happiness is found, for that transaction never runs out. So when one becomes knowledgeable of this, through taking what's inside and expressing it outwardly, even in this Maya, every moment becomes blissful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful wisdom. I hope everyone, and myself included, I will go back and re-listen to that. It felt like a true channel from the divine. So thank you.
Thank
And
you.
lastly, Yamsox, I'll just ask you, how can the listeners who are tuning in right now follow you or find you to listen to more of your wisdom and beautiful content and just beautiful teachings and way of explaining the things that you've come to learn in life?
Mm. Everyone is welcome to go to my link tree, which I can send you, but I will spell out as linktr.ee/Yamsox, Yamsox, and that has every link that I'm affiliated with, all that I'm up to there.
Perfect. And I will include that in the notes in the YouTube description. So thank you for joining me on 5 Good Questions, Yamsox. It has been an absolute blessing and a pleasure to speak with you and have you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil, for having me. I'm very blessed to have this opportunity.